What do the Patriots do at wide receiver now, Keegan? That's a question. The free agents available, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Keenan Allen. I'm not going to bring up Deontay Johnson. He will not fit in this locker room. Rondale Moore, who's like a twitchier Pop Douglas. The draft options that we got into, Ted McMillan, Travis Hunter, Matthew Golden, like sneaky good wide receiving prospect. Trey Harris, Elika Yomenor. Obviously, you're a Texas guy. Oh, no, you're an Ohio State guy. You're from Texas. Jalen Royals. My guys. I love Jalen Royals. I love Jaden Higgins. I love Jalen Noel. I love Xavier Restrepo. And I love Pat Bryant. Out of all that, what makes sense to you? Like, what would you do? Is there a free agent, a vet out there you like? Is there a draft prospect you like? Because if you trade back, get more draft picks, second round, if they address tackle in my eyes, say they go stay top 10, get Josh Simmons. You're in the second round, whoever you trade back with, double dip. Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins. Or maybe you use that to trade back in and get a Matthew Golden who won't make it out of the first round. Like and then you have another second round pick, though, where you get that Jalen Noel. I really love Jalen Noel, if you couldn't tell.
I do too. I kind of laid it out last time I was talking about this. I think you sign a veteran and you draft a guy early. So whether it's Stephon Diggs or Brandon Cooks, Brandon Cooks is the oldest 32-year-old of all time. He's been in the league since 2014. That's insane. The fact that he's only 32.
Yep.
But you draft or you sign one of those two guys. Do you want to deal with the headache of Stephon Diggs? Probably not. So you take a Brandon Cooks, a guy who has proven himself to be able to play on the outside. He can play in this system. He's played for Josh McDaniels before, and he's found success everywhere he's been. He was a 1,000-yard receiver up until like 2021, and then he started to slide into these like veteran wide receiver 2 roles. So I think you sign a guy like Brandon Cooks, and then with this added draft capital that you have from drafting Josh Simmons and trading back, you go ahead and you either trade back into the first round for Matthew Golden, or you trade back into the first round, or wait, depending on how the draft shakes out, for Emeka Ibuka, who is maybe the most pro-ready wide receiver there is in this entire draft. He'll never be a wide receiver 1, but I think he'll be a consistent, productive wide receiver for the next 7 to 10 years. Like, he's that good. He's a strong, physical slot receiver who can play in multiple alignments. He's the all-time leading receiver at Ohio State. He's going to be a good NFL receiver. Like, we're talking Michael Thomas and Chris Carter, and basically any guy who's been drafted in the first round in the last 7 years came from Ohio State. The
Chris Olave,
Marvin Harrisons of the world. Chris Olave. We can name 40 of them, and he's the all-time leading receiver. Is that because he stayed an extra year? Yes. But he was consistent. He played early. He played with all those guys we just named. So a Brandon Cooks and Emeka Ibuka and Josh Simmons, or Brandon Cooks and Matthew Golden and Josh Simmons, that's a really decent offense. I'm not going to say it's really good. You need to see how all these pieces fit.
Yeah.
Obviously, rookies, it's a volatile thing. They could stink. They could be really good right away. It could take them some time. Those 3 names that I just mentioned, whether you can flip-flop Ibuka and Golden.
Yeah.
I think now with that, plus what you did in during free agency, plus with all your depth, pieces that you'll draft throughout the rest of the draft, you're looking at a really decent roster that can contend for a wild card spot, or at the very least, be a watchable football team.
Yeah, Emeka Ibuka, 6 foot plus, 4.3 40. Golden, 5'11", 195, sub 4.3 40. And I've never really watched him and thought that was sub 4.3 40 time. But Golden tracking a ball in the air and how good Drake May is with his accuracy on throwing a deep ball, that's the stuff you want. And that's a guy
it's like art. It's insane.
It is. How good he is at it. Like, how easy he makes the difficult things look. That's how I define athleticism. How easy do you make it look? The athleticism that Matthew Golden does. While having that potential of that absolute breakout speed. You catch someone flat-footed, he's gone. That's what you want. And then you have him paired up. I like that Emeka Ibuka thought, because he should be a first-rounder. He will go in the first round. I think you just never know. But that's something where if you trade up and you take him and you don't risk that, you don't wait for 38 to get a Jaden Higgins, who I love, but is 6'4", is slower, is a slot, compared to Emeka Ibuka, who is a slot but quicker and just more pro-ready, like you mentioned, then that can work. That's where, and I like that you bring up the Brandon Cooks. We were going through the show last week, and I'm just looking at the available guys, and it just hit me, Brandon Cooks is still out there. Yes, he's coming off a career low in production of the year. The whole existence in Dallas was terrible, but like you said, played for Josh McDaniels in 2017. Likely, for him, how old he is, how long he's been in the league. He's like, hey, whoever wants me, I'll go. I don't care about winning at this point. Has won in the past. Like, he's just down to do what it takes to continue to be on a roster, and I think he would take pride in pouring into these guys. Undersized receiver, isn't as quick as he was. He's a wide receiver 3. He'd be a wide receiver 2 here.
Yeah.
But he helps when you bring in rookies and the guys like the Polks and the Bakers, who we talked about at the beginning of the show. He helps them grow and move along as pros.
Yeah, and you mentioned Amari Cooper and Brandon Stephon Diggs. These are guys too. Amari Cooper very well could have just been injured last year.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't look right, and he wasn't quite to the level of what we've seen. He's also very famously a year-on, year-off guy, where he'll have 2 really good years, and then he'll have a bad year. And then he'll have 3 really good years, and then he'll have a bad year. Maybe that was just his bad year, and maybe he's ready to jump back up. He is 30. He's on the wrong half of that, so you have to worry about, did it just catch up to him at this point? But with what you already have in the receiver room and how much money you have to spend, throw a dart at one of these veterans. I think Diggs is the most volatile. You said that word and now it's stuck in my head, but he could destroy this entire wide receiver room. He could also be a godsend, and he could be a great weapon for Drake May. He could bring him along. He could make the rest of the offense better just because he's a professional receiver. He gets open. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't think I don't think Mike Vrabel would either, because he's very famously a culture guy, and he wants to have the right people in the building, and having a guy who cries and I was going to say a bad word. I didn't. Shout out Ethan. Yeah, thank you. On the sideline, you don't want that. So skip over the high ceiling guy and go ahead and just grab yourself a reliable veteran wide receiver who can slide into your wide receiver 2 role, and then take a shot at one of these rookies. Also, before we wrap this up, Ted McMillan, no thank you. I don't see it. I don't know what everybody sees. I just don't get it.
It's that he's just a wide receiver 1, like 6'4", 220, slim, and he's good.
Maybe.
Yes, and he's a wide receiver 1 in this draft. Yeah, to your point, maybe. Matthew.
He played
Golden,
in the Big 12.
Yes, and he was the only thing on that offense. Him and Fafita, his quarterback. They run it back. Good catch radius. Plays like a volleyball player, really good hands, like swallows a ball, vacuum hands. Ball's near him, he's coming down with it. But at 6'4", 220, you got to be built the right way. Like, you and I were talking about it off air last show we did, where there's a Vincent Jacksons and the Drake Londons that works. But otherwise, 6'4" receivers, that is such a big area. We talk about Carlton Davis, Christian Gonzalez, Travis Hunter, the length they have. That is such a big area for DBs to get their hands on you and just completely mess you up.
Right.
When dudes are as strong as they are in the NFL, there's a difference in matching up with a Big 12 D-back and an NFL grown-ass man defensive back.
A Big 12 defensive back who's 5'10", 175 pounds, the Jack Joneses of the world, who you can bully in the red zone and you can have success against. When you get to the NFL, Patrick Surtain's going to put you in handcuffs. Yeah. And then he's going to bury your face in the turf, and he's going to laugh at you while he does it. Christian Gonzalez is going to do the same thing. So I didn't mean to turn this into a bashing Ted McMillan sesh, but Julio Jones and Calvin Johnson and Vincent Jackson, Drake London. I'm taking Drake London out of that group, but physical freaks, 6'4" and 230 plus pounds. Also ran a 4.4, 4.3 40. Also had great testing numbers when it comes to explosion and short area quickness. That is not who Ted McMillan is.
Yeah.
He's a tall wide receiver who, like you said, he plays like a volleyball player, and he had success against smaller players at a lower level. Matthew Golden wasn't as productive, played in a tougher conference. He played in the SEC. He played in an offense that is so stringent on what wide receivers do. You are going to run this route, and you're going to run it like this, and you are going to have success because you're playing within Steven Sarkisian's system.
Yep.
That's how they teach their wide receivers. Also, Xavier Worthy was there, and who's the guy who said he was going to break his record and didn't even come close? Isaiah Bond was there last year. He got buried a little bit because he was younger and he wasn't quite as big of a prospect coming out of high school. But from what we saw in the last half of last college season into the playoff, Matthew Golden is very clearly the most impressive wide receiver. It's whether or not he can reach, the heights of what we expect him to be able to reach. Yeah. Ted McMillan, he is what he is. And I don't think it's going to be all that great at the NFL level.
It's ups and downs, too. It's Quinn Ewers one week. It's Arch Manning the next. It's Quinn Ewers unmobile in the pocket. And that's
Right.
what happens too. You talk about production. Where credit, it's also the consistency. Like Noah Fafita, not an NFL quarterback, but it's good to be consistent with your QB and your wide receiver out there.